It is obviously a positive step for the United States and for Afghanistan. I was meeting just a couple of times in the recent months with a Taliban spokesman, and we were discussing this very issue and the details of it. The Taliban person who is heading up this office in Qatar is somebody known as Tayyab Agha. He is still the right-hand man of Mullah Omar, and he used to be the gatekeeper. If you go back to sort of when the Taliban were in control of Afghanistan, he was a gatekeeper to Mullah Omar. And back then, of course, they did call themselves the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan when they controlled the country, trying now to revert back to that. But what strikes me as interesting from the discussions that I've been having with the particular Taliban spokesman, and there are several, with the one I was speaking to who has a lot of knowledge of what's going on here. We've seen, obviously, efforts to try and get this Taliban office open, to get the United States in a sort of formal discussion with them, if you will. And one of the problems has been the president of Afghanistan, Hamid Karzai, has been very outraged that the United States would sort of go behind his back. Why would he be so outraged? One of the reasons is Pakistan's involvement. When we think about Mullah Omar and where he's believed to be inside Pakistan, he's in a position where the Pakistani authorities have a lot of control over him, and also for people like Tayyab Agha. The fact that there is a Taliban office open in Qatar is a result as well of Pakistan's acquiescence to this. Pakistan has an interest in the future of Afghanistan. So really we see several pieces coming together here. The United States having not only got Afghanistan, the Taliban on side with this, but Pakistan as well. And from my conversations again with this particular spokesman, Pakistan continues to be able to exert significant amount of influence over that Mullah Omar group of Taliban. They have control over him. There are elements of the Taliban even that don't necessarily want to continue fighting and are not really being given that option because of pressures being put on them from over the border, Michael.
Yeah, and of course, you have to sort of ask this too. I mean, if you're going to have these talks, who are you talking to? How unified is the Taliban leadership? How representative would those in Qatar be to the movement as a whole?
Well, Tayyab Agha is absolutely the right-hand man of Mullah Omar and will be faithful to him. And there's a general belief that, yes, absolutely, there are a number of different factions of the Taliban, and they've splintered, regrouped, and morphed over the years. Perhaps the Haqqani network and perhaps the TTP of Pakistan and perhaps Hekmatyar further to the north are the principal elements that wouldn't fall under direct influence of the Taliban under Mullah Omar. And perhaps the Haqqani network, the one that's probably in the southeast of Afghanistan killed more Americans than any other group of the Taliban, are perhaps the ones that are going to be ultimately, if a deal is reached between the Taliban, Mullah Omar's Taliban, and the central government of Afghanistan, the Haqqani network could continue to be a thorn in their side, playing for their own particular advantage across the border trade, and their own control and power in the regions where they exert influence. But if you get the Taliban and a large faction of the Taliban on side, that changes or affects the political landscape, that you get some of those other players who aren't as big to begin to move into discussions as well. It's a very, very complicated picture, and not least because of Pakistan's influence and involvement over the Taliban.